So lesson one is the nutrition basics. So in this video, we're going to go through two things. First is the nutrition pyramid, and then we're going to go through the three simple rules that we want you to follow. So let's have a look at the nutrition pyramid. So the very base is the most important, and as you go up the pyramid, these things become less important. So as you can see, adherence is right at the bottom. And that is the most important thing, making sure that you are staying consistent and you're in a routine. Calories is the second most important. So making sure that you're aiming for a calorie target and hitting that target consistently. The macronutrients, so that would be, for most people, it's focusing more on the protein, make sure you get enough protein in. Micronutrients, meal timings, so when to have your food, and then supplements. But what most people tend to do is they tend to do it the complete opposite. So let's say when you're looking to get in shape, most people tend to do it the complete opposite way around. So they'll start at supplements and then they'll go, so start getting like fat burners or meal replacement shakes, and then they'll start doing it that way, when really the most important thing is to just be consistent over a longer period of time, and to track your calorie and protein intake. So, during this course and your time at Benchmark, we're going to focus on these three main things within the bracket. So your adherence, which is you sticking to the plan, your calorie intake, so calories and proteins, calories, and then macronutrients is focusing on your protein. So these are the most important things. So touching on the nutrition rules. So rule number one is to have single ingredient foods 90% of the time. So a single ingredient food is, for example, all the things you see in this bottom half of the pyramid. So all I mean is when you look at a packaging label, when you look at a sweet potato, all you will see on the ingredients list is sweet potato. Or they probably won't even see anything if it's just sort of in a box by itself. However, when you look at, say, a pizza or a donut, you'll see 15, 20 different ingredients that make up that pizza. So really simple. It is to have 90% of your meals coming from these single ingredient foods. So these are all good quality foods, and it's making sure that your food is not, your diet is not dominated by these high calorie, low fiber junk foods at the top. So 90% of your food, 90% of your meal plan coming from this portion of foods. And the reason why I want to do this is because good quality nutrition gives us energy, satisfies your hunger, improves your health, will help with your sleep, will reduce stress levels, and it's just going to also really give you a lot of benefit overall. So focusing 90% of your time having these meals is going to give you much better results. So rule number two is be flexible 10% of the time. So what we're basically saying is 90% of the time have these foods, and then 10% of the time have these foods. So the sort of there is no major benefit to having these foods, like there's no health benefits to having a pizza as such, but the benefit of having these foods that we tend to sort of enjoy a little bit more is that it means you will stay on track longer, because it doesn't feel like you're on a restrictive diet plan. It just feels like you're eating healthy, but you're still enjoying the things that you're having. So it's okay to have donuts, it's okay to have junk food, and it's okay to enjoy some of these not so great foods that you love. But don't worry about these things, having these things every now and again. Just make sure that A, they don't dominate your diet, and B, when you do have them, they fit into your calorie targets for that day. And again, we'll talk through calories in a bit. But just to sort of reiterate, having your nutrition plan this way round, where 90% of the time is having this, and then adding in these 10%, adding in this sort of not so great junk food type foods 10% of the time will make you stay on track. You're following a bit more of a flexible diet, and you'll stay consistent, which will ultimately make you adhere to your diet a lot better, because you don't feel like you're on a diet as such. Okay, so, and just to add to that as well, it means that you can sort of have, when you're having these 10% of the time, it means you can actually have these foods and not feel guilty for it. So if you're at a birthday party, or you're at the cinema, or you're watching a film, and you have these sorts of foods, because you're having them 10% of the time, you don't feel guilty for having them either. Okay, cool. Let's go on to rule number 3, track your food and hit your targets. So ultimately, everything is relying on tracking your food and hitting your targets. So your food intake is based on on your calories, and hitting your targets with your protein. So, hitting your targets with your macronutrients. So track your food intake and hit your calories and macro targets every day. So macronutrients are proteins, carbs, and fats. Now it's important because if you don't track, you can't possibly know what direction you're going in. You don't know where you are now. It's sort of like wanting to get to a destination in a car but not having a sat nav and finding out exactly where you are now. Because if you don't know where you are now, you don't know where you're going to be going. Like I said, the main reason for tracking is to see if your nutrition targets set by your coach are actually working. So say, for example, if your coach sets you a target of having 1,500 calories and you stay within these 1,500 calories, having 90% single ingredient foods and having 10% flexible sort of junk foods, and you're hitting this calorie target and you're seeing results, your body's changing, you're feeling stronger, you have more energy, your body fat's coming down. If that's sort of going in the right direction, it means that the nutrition plan is working. But on the flip side, if it means that your body isn't changing too much, or you're feeling low on energy, you're tired, your sleep's like sort of not too great, then we need to start changing things. So ultimately, we need to track your food to see how your body's changing. We need to hit your targets, and by doing this, we can then see if what you're doing and what your coach has set for you is actually working. And when you do your check-ins with your coach and you get your measurements done, we can see that maybe you might need to end up eating more, you may need to eat less, but we can only do that if you're tracking your food. Okay, so it's important to try and be as accurate and as consistent as possible, and you can do all this on an app called MyFitnessPal. Tracking your food allows us to monitor what you're eating, make adjustments in increasing or decreasing your calorie intake, so your progress never plateaus for too long. So, as well as sticking to rule number 1, 90% of the time, make your meals, as well as sticking to rule number 1, which is 90% of the time, making your meals a variety of single ingredient foods, and number 2, being flexible 10% of the time, you're also going to try and stick to rule number 3, which is to track your food intake and hit your calorie targets every day. An important note is that you're never going to be spot on with the exact gram or the exact calorie every day, but a good level of accuracy is within about 100 to 150 calories. So if your daily calorie target is 2,500, 2,500 calories, then anywhere between 2,400 and 2,600 calories is a good sort of estimate and a good target. But like I say, you're never going to be spot on, but just by tracking it in some sense will be a lot better than not doing it at all. Okay, so that's the 3 rules that we need to focus on. Rule number 1, 90% single ingredient foods 90% of the time. Rule number 2, being flexible 10% of the time, having those foods like the pizzas, donuts, ice cream, wine, like we can have those foods 10% of the time. And rule number 3, tracking your food and hitting your targets, which your calorie target will have been set by your coach, and you'll do this using MyFitnessPal, which is the simplest way of doing it. And then once you've been consistently hitting your calorie intake, we can see if what you're doing is actually working, and if we could improve it, then we can make adjustments to what you're actually eating. So if you do have any questions on any of these things, please. If you do have any questions to any of these things, please do grab your coach and ask us any questions. But do be aware that you'll be going through some other things about how to stay on track later on in the program.